G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be covering all the drop spots for the EU FNCS Grand Finals. I made a video yesterday on NA East and you guys absolutely loved it, so I'm backing it up with EU, and man, there are some big things to talk about here. We have drops like Steamy stacks that have 3 teams going them. We have a team that I didn't really expect to alpha up Hydro Dam. Everyone's been asking questions. How is Idrop's team going to go now they're uncontested? How do I think Vadeal, Rezon, and Noahreylo are going to go in a Grand Final? So there's a lot of questions you guys have. I want to cover all those, and at the end of today's video, I even want to give you my top 5 teams that I think could win FNCS Grand Finals for EU. So if I end up being wrong, you guys can come back and laugh at me. Before I start talking about the map, I have to give a huge shout out to Guild Ginger. This is their esports manager, and he's the one who put this whole map together. I've sent it off to my editor to make it look nice and pretty to get a graphic made, but he put in all the legwork, getting a Discord going and getting all the tweets from different pros together to make sure this is the most updated EU drop spot map. I'll put a link in the description down below for the actual map too, without all the pretty graphics, because it is updating live. So if there's any major changes before Grand Finals, they will be made and you'll be able to check it. But as of this point, Ginger's like 99% sure that 30 plus of these teams should stay the same. We might see some interesting moves from some of the lesser teams, but all the major teams seem really rooted in where they're going. All right, let's jump straight into this map now. The first one you're going to notice very quickly is a lot of names in that top northeast section. Unfortunately, we do have, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have 3 teams going Steamy stacks. I have to imagine this will change right now. I have to think that if any of these teams are looking to move around the map, it's going to be at least one of these teams for Steamy. I mean, I've talked about in previous videos, if you're going into FNCS Grand Finals and you're contested every game, I don't care how good you are. I don't think even Vadeal's team, arguably the best fighters in the world, would able to even come top 5 being contested every game. Even if you win the fight every game, the time spent, the loot you miss out on, just everything, it just does not work. And Steamy stacks is a fight that always drags out. You'll have one team camp on the stacks, you'll have one team camp inside the factories. It's going to be this long drawn out stalemate and no one's going to win, which is really sad, because Rev, Scram, and Andretta were actually my picks to win FNCS coming into this season. At the start of the season, they were absolutely dominating every set lobbies. They managed to qualify out of heats most recently, getting a top 8 finish while being contested all 6 games. So they've shown they can get a decent placing while contested, but being contested by 2 teams now, and I still don't think they'll make top 5 either way, because they didn't make top 5 being contested by 1 team, and that was heats, not grands. It's really unfortunate to see. I mean, I don't really have much input other than surely at least one of these teams leave, and I know it's not going to be Andretta's team. They just alphaed the drop in heats. They still came top 8. They're a phenomenal team. Like I said, one of my picks to win, so I can't see them leaving. But if they don't leave, or the other 2 teams don't leave, it's unfortunately looking like it's wraps for one of my favorite and one of my picks to win this season. One of the other majorly contested drops, which is an interesting one, is Misty Meadows. Misty Meadows for the longest time in EU has been contested, but it's been held down by the French teams. People have made the memes of the French own Misty Meadows, and they always have, because of the unfortunateness with the French internet service provider that I talked about in a recent video, where a lot of them weren't able to play the game, so they didn't qualify. It's the first time we see Misty Meadows contested by teams that aren't French, and then we can actually maybe expect they might fight a little bit. I mean, these teams are looking interesting. If you had to pick which one do I think is going to come out on top if they do fight, the main thing I'm going off is the fact that Knifer, Vino, and Patty are not looking the best chemistry wise. I've never seen a team so publicly dislike each other or have such public issues with their chemistry. I mean, they've come off the console track, or at least Patty has. It was an FNCS champion on console, showing up on PC, and they're just not looking fantastic when it comes to chemistry. There's a meme going around right now that they must have to mute their comms while playing, otherwise there's no way this team would actually last. I mean, they've publicly tweeted out, like, I'm pretty sure Knifer tweeted out something like, I wonder what it feels like to play with normal people. Like, things aren't looking good, but I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. They've made it to grand finals, so even if their chemistry is a bit off, their play style is a bit off, clearly something's working. I have to imagine with Misty Meadows, they won't fight. They do have a team behind them though. They have Nico Nico's team up on the mountain, so I don't know if they're going to be able to rotate out and take the houses which are on the west side of Misty. But if you're a full trio and west side of Misty and you don't at least get those houses and sometimes the gas station over near Hydro Dam and the middle islands, you just don't have a lot of loot. So I don't know if I have really high hopes for either of these teams. Also, while looking at this part of the map, worth mentioning, like I said yesterday in NA East video, EU also has no team going Camp Cod. So this is not just a once-off thing for NA East. No one wants to go Camp Cod in grand finals because Surge is just impossible. You're down, I talked about yesterday, you're down on the coastline, you're tucked in around the mountains, you have no sight lines for Surge tags. So when you think you have 3 teams going Steamy though, surely one of them tries to go make Camp Cod work. I don't know, but no team at Camp Cod. The last 2 major drop spots to be contested is Hunter's Haven and Lazy. Now, Hunter's Haven, I really don't have a lot to say about either of these teams or Hunter's Haven contested. I mean, I just don't think it's going to go well for them. Hunter's Haven, I argue, doesn't even have enough loot for one trio. You really have to get the bridge. You have to try and get Mando's house to make it work. So if you're contested and all of you are dropping in Hunter's Haven, I mean, if you can win the spawn fight enough times to get your Storm Surge tag and then take your time rotating out and looting, I don't know. Things aren't looking great for them though. But if we look at Lazy Lake, interestingly enough, Blackie's team is a team that I think is super underrated coming into this. I did see a tweet by Reese Hub, which is obviously another analyst for EU as well. He was talking about how many consistency teams made it into the finals and grand finals for EU, and he pointed out that the second best consistency team actually is Blackie's team, who had an average placement of 46.7 and also have the second best average performances across all qualifiers in Cash Cups, having an average placement of 13.7. So, I mean, you can take that as much as you want as well. This is a grand final stage. I don't know how much that's going to matter coming into this, especially if, again, they're contested. But you understand why they might be getting contested by Karma's team, which I'm excited to see because, I mean, if you're going to drop on any team and you're going to drop anywhere on the map, I feel like a Lazy Lake contest is doable because of the way the fight plays out, because of how much loot there is, and because of the rotates. But again, it's not looking like a fantastic spot because it's contested. I did want to point out that Levin did specifically mention Karma's team will be super interesting to watch. They came second in their heat and they're being coached by Boop, which puts a lot of people in EU especially has a lot of favor on this team with coming in that prepared. So if they're getting coached by someone like Boop and they're still going a contested drop, I have to imagine they have some kind of game plan and can maybe break my narrative of how poorly I think teams are going to do if they're contested. One of the other drop spots I want to talk about as being contested, but technically it isn't, is the drop spot on NA East that I heavily rate for DGen, Ages, and Skittles, going the Orchard and Triple House split. On EU, you'll notice that Boya's team is actually getting contested by Gripey's team, or at least they're trying to split the loot. And unfortunately, this area of the map doesn't have enough loot for 6 players, in my opinion. It means only one of them is going to be able to get the slurp truck that's over towards Steamy. And that means then if you drop, let's say Gripey's team triple drops on the slurp truck, that means they're going to get the little bit of the gas station, the kind of henchman antenna house on the hill, and the triple houses. I can't see that being enough loot for trios. And then, for example, same with Hellfire's team, they're only going to be able to get the Orchard for loot, and that's it. Because unless they want to start pushing into Kami, Teak, and Seti, which is obviously the Kami split, which I've talked about a lot, which is going to be a bit rough. They also have, is it Neb's team as well, over near the Zates Hill and the Risky Reels area, and you have 2 teams at Colosseum. So middle map's going to be heavily contested. So out of Orchard, I guess they can go take Pleasant Bridge and maybe Zates Hill, but it's not looking like fantastic loot for either of those teams. The very last spot on the map that is contested, which I haven't talked about yet, is going to be Colosseum. It's held down by Diablo's team, which is the team that actually managed to win the reboot round, which is super exciting for them, but they've gone straight into the Colosseum, which I don't particularly like as a single trio drop spot. We haven't really seen any team do solid out of this. The only team I can think of is really Jampa's team that did phenomenal out of here when it was uncontested, but as soon as it gets contested, every single team here has done terribly, and they are contested as well. So I don't have huge hopes for either of those teams at that drop spot, but again, maybe they know something I don't know because they're choosing to drop into it contested. All right, now we get to talk about some of the teams that are uncontested that have a really good chance to do well. I don't want to just talk about all the teams that are contested, but I think they're the most important to point out first. But this is where I'm going to start talking about some of my picks to win FNCS, my 5 teams that I think could actually win it. And on my list, again, don't flame me too hard, I have Savage's team, Anas's team, Chapik's team, Benji's team, and then Andillex's team. Now, you'll notice there, I did leave off a few major teams like Kami's team. And again, EU is so hard to pick right now. Also, I left off teams like Rezon, Vadeal, Noahreylo. Like, I know there's big teams that I left off here, but I'm gonna try and defend why I did that here, and I'm gonna talk about their job spots and explain it a little bit more. I could very easily see myself be wrong because EU is just so hard to pick with so many phenomenal teams. Starting off middle map, we obviously have Idrop, Savage, and Tayson. They have uncontested salty towers. We've already seen what they can do when they actually try, coming first in their heat, doing phenomenal things. So I have really high hopes for them. Also, as a team that I think is just going to improve as they play grand finals and are going to improve in a grand final setting. When it's 12 games with the best of the best, the games are as stacked as they are. I think how smart, how composed that team is will really show. And that's also why I could then compare that to Vadeal, Rezon, and Noahreylo, who I don't think are going to do top 5 for grand finals. Could be wrong. This is a team that everyone always has this same conversation. Yes, they're the best fighters in the world. Yes, they're insanely mechanical, but they're super aggressive. And the better the lobby, the better they start playing when it comes into grand finals. It's where it gets harder. If you're trying to kill Timmy, Jimmy, and Billy, compared to trying to key Idrop, Savage, and Tayson, you're gonna have a worse time. But their mechanics are on a whole nother level that if anyone can prove that you can fight your way through grand finals, it is gonna be them. And I don't want to make it sound like I think they have no brains and they're literally just W keyers. I know they still know how to play set lobbies. I know they're still phenomenally smart. I just think their playstyle gets riskier and riskier the better opponents you verse. If you try to take that one extra fight, 2 more, it's just gonna go against you. But they have a lot of people scared on the map. I feel like their rotations around Sweaty are going to be really good. I think people are going to avoid them for the most part. So if they get decent first and second zones and they have 12 games to figure it out, I do have high hopes. And that's probably the team maybe up there with Stompys' team that I wouldn't be surprised if they make top 5 and they upset my picks. 2 other teams that are really close together. One was inside my top 5 and one was just outside. We have Benji, Amplify, and Matzo at Slurpee. This is a team that is obviously a fan favorite. They are looking really strong. Honestly, how insane they've been with so little time spent together. I think each week they're just going to keep improving, which they've shown. And I think coming into grand finals, a team like this that has really good chemistry, so far I've seen really good comms and really enjoy playing together in a 12-game format. I can see them avoiding that tilt factor and being really consistent. They also don't really have teams around them to deal with that are going to be too chaotic. The other team that I wanted to talk about that is uncontested, that is outside my top 5 just because they're kind of ramping up, is Stompys' team. It looks like they've got Hydro Dam uncontested, which we know, especially in grand finals, with that guaranteed RPG is going to be a massive win condition, but they really struggled in heats, struggled in qualifiers, not making round 4 a single week, only getting to heats off consistency, but then did really well in their heats. So maybe this is a team that, like I was talking about just then with Noahreylo, Vadeal, and Rezon, maybe they're like the reverse of that. They do better and better in stacked lobbies and they just don't do as well in opens lobbies, which with Hydro Dam, I don't know if they were dropping there in the qualifiers. Hydro Dam is a really risky drop in opens tournaments, like we saw Zaitsaf and Stretch struggle out of there as well. So high hopes for them. I just had them outside my top 5 because they haven't really proven their consistency recently, but I've got high hopes for them all the same. If they pop off, I wouldn't be surprised. 2 teams that I have almost no doubt would be top 5, and I think if they don't make top 5, something has gone very wrong. These are my 2 picks to win FNCS if I had to narrow it down to 2. It's going to be Hen, Chapix, and Janice out of Craggy, and then we have Thomas, Anas, and Flick out of Dirty. I've talked about it before. Dirty Docks, I think, is the best drop on the map, maybe second to Misty, but with EU having Misty contested, I would have to say that Thomas, Anas, and Flick right now have the loot advantage coming out of Dirty Docks. They're looking insane. insane. Unfortunately for them, they're going to be trying to find their surge tags on a very phenomenal team. Kami, Seti, and Teague are obviously the best team that dropped the Kami split. It's literally named after this player and after this team, so trying to find their Storm surge tags coming out of Dirty, I think, will be their only biggest issue. If they get really bad early zones, it could be quite hard, but having the middle map be so congested, having two teams at Colosseum like I talked about, one team at Risky, and then Boya's team having the Orchard split but rotating center earlier because they don't have the triple houses, that could help them out a lot. Obviously, they also have Virox, Mexi, and Michael in the center of the map as well, so I hope they can find their surge tags on the way in and have a solid performance. I have very high hopes for them. They absolutely destroyed what was the most difficult heat in EU, proving that as the lobbies get better, so do they as well. And then obviously Hen, Chapix, and Janice are on an absolute tear right now, proving they should be arguably the best team in the world right now if you include Cash Cups as well, because man, this team is just running up every single trio event in EU right now. They're doing it out of Craggy. I talked yesterday in my NA video about how Craggy has recently been nerfed a little bit with the Fish Sticks Harpoon quest getting taken out of the game, but I still think it's a phenomenal drop for a team that's been dropping here the entire time and having insane performances. So I have no reason to see why they wouldn't here, unless maybe grand finals, that extra step more difficult, makes it like that much harder. But I would be really surprised if either of those teams don't win FNCS or at least 100% make top 3. The last team I haven't talked about is Andillex's team over at Caddy Corners, my last pick for my top 5, because, I mean, it's Andillex. They've been playing so ridiculously well. Not only do they have Caddy Corners, a drop that I think is so insanely strong, one of 3 drops that has the guaranteed NPC upgrades, has guaranteed gold quest to get the upgrades, but as we all know, also has the Big Chill, the snowball launcher, and this is the only time I've seen on a major region where no one is trying to go weather station. Again, I would be very surprised to see that not happen in grand finals. I'd be surprised if one of these teams contested, maybe Colosseum, Hunters, maybe Steamy, doesn't at least try to go weather station. It is a drop that does work if you get the loot around it. There's no team down at Camp COD, which means that Storm Surge tags from there will be a little bit harder, but still very manageable. But man, if Andillex's team gets Caddy Corner and weather station, and they can somehow piece the gold together to get the Big Chill, it would be hard. They'd need to find some vaults, but if they get that even, let's say, 2 or 3 games out of 12, that is very manageable to help them win the entire FNCS. I picked them because their team is phenomenal, but that's a pick for me that is also very dependent on drop. They have a really good drop right now, but I'm very scared to see when grand finals game 1 kicks off if a team goes weather station or not. But overall, I think they're playing really consistently, and I think they're a team that is not in a lot of people's top 5 unless you massively follow EU, but really should be. There are a lot of other teams that could really upset the balance of things also as well. Obviously, you have Myra's team, which is going to be going Weeping, uncontested, looking super solid out of that. You do have Mexi, Michael, and Virox, like I talked about earlier, getting that middle map split, which I haven't seen too many teams do phenomenal, but that is an amazing team. I'd probably say the best team that goes that split in any region. Also, you have CRR's team getting Stealthy, uncontested. They've been a bit shaky in the qualifying weeks. They're a new team. They've got a lot to prove, but I could see them really surprising people. So if there's any team I didn't talk about or I forgot, I'm sorry, I apologize. Like I always say, EU isn't my main region that I watch. I love following it because, man, the players, the gameplay, the level of caliber of the pros is insane, but the time that it happens, I have to go back and watch all the VODs after it. I've got to sift through Twitter of different languages, reaching out to different analysts, so if I've messed up something, I apologize. Don't take my word as gospel, but I'd love to see how my picks hold up. I've never just picked 5 EU teams that I think are going to do well and seen how they go. So I really hope they do hold up. I hope you like this video of me covering EU as well. I'm going to do more EU content in the future. I'm hoping in the seasons in the future I can try and change my sleep schedule up a little bit to try and cover EU a bit better. It happens at 1 AM for me, so it's not going to be the easiest, but I'm going to do my best, I promise. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comment section down below your picks to win EU FNCS. I'd love to hear it. You EU fans are always incredibly vocal, whether I love it or hate it. I love how passionate you guys are. So flame me. Did I get it wrong or do you agree? If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.